writers from different fields, for example, like music, literature, translation, and architecture. And we try to really explore the field of overlap and how we can test borders where one ends and the other starts, and like how we can really mingle our expertise. Here I tried to collect some images from works we did in the collective. So we have a project called Fieltro. And as you see, it's a human body with like very tiny pieces of fieltro on the skin. And our interest was also like how this material is interacting with the human body and how it is transforming the shape of the body, how it can be seen through different lenses, and like what kind of associations do we have with what we see. Then another project is Post Them. So this was like a short videos of two performers where you can see the post stems are attached to their bodies, and basically trying to play with the shape of the body, changing shapes, and like find slow transformations from one state into another. On the right bottom or right top, we have what we saw before in the gallery space is the interaction of the city with the human body. So our idea was, or like our base for this project was the artworks by Valley Export. She is an Austrian performer, and she started already in the 60s to experiment with her body in the space, in like urban spaces. So what we kind of experimented with was the same, like how does the human body interact with objects in the city? How can a human body fit in or disturb the urban space? How can you maybe like frame certain things or give more importance or more visual effect on certain things? And this is also just a picture of a series that we did with different spots in the city and in the gallery space. On the bottom left, the project is called Pullovers. And as you can see, these are like all red clothes from an artist that sewed together a lot of different pullovers in different sizes. And she created like one huge fabric that she was like, how to say, like putting into the space for an installation. And fortunately enough, we received this artwork from her, and we could experiment with this material in connection with our with dance and body in space. So again, another picture series. And on the bottom right, it's called Mice, and it's a stop motion video that Lab on Stage did with like a lot of computer mice. So if you're interested in seeing those short videos, you will all find them on YouTube if you have time to watch them. So very shortly, just some pictures from additional projects. So we have the Garden of Desires that you were seeing already before. We have Wollknäuel. This was like also a stop motion video that we did with wool. So you can see in the progress of the small pictures, always a part of wool was added on the body. And then from there, there was a short exploration of finding the way out. And the video is played backwards. So it gives a very nice effect on the body. Also, Lab on Stage did some picture series in the city of Linz, as you can see on the bottom left. And these are two performers that were just randomly finding objects and situating the human body in relation to these objects. And yeah, on the right bottom, you see one object of the visual artist, this big red fish that was carried through the city and yeah, filmed like a pedestrian walk through the city, interacting with different people and yeah, having like a short walk. What I find in the history of our collective kind of essential was one project that we did, which is called Klette. So Klette is first of all like a flower. I don't know if you know, when you go to the forest and this flower gets stuck to your skin, this is called Klette. But also in German, it's a word for a person that kind of clings to you, like a person that is always so close to you and you cannot get rid of. And this was our research field, like accumulation, attachment. How do we make it? How do we make this attachment from one body to another body real? And this was somehow how the idea was born, to create costumes out of Velcro. As you can see, like we had like these two parts of the Velcro, like the male and the female part. So one costume was totally with the male part of the Velcro, and the other one with the female part. So as soon as we danced and we touched each other, the Velcro made us stick together and made the attachment very real. And the interesting thing about this is that it gave the dance and the movement a very specific character. Starting from the idea for the costume, we kind of explored the very specific movement and language of dance. We created two characters, and in addition to that, we had like a third performer on stage, which was the carton sofa that you can see in the pictures on the right. And the nice thing about this piece was that it kind of explored the relation between subject and object, and what does it really mean to be an active subject or to be like a passive object, and how do those shift from one to another, and how do they interact, or how do I animate a passive object into a very active subject. The next kind of pictures that you see here is from a series of videos that we did. So the initiation for these videos was a residency in an old theater, which had some spaces that were already abandoned and not used. And we invited a video artist to come with us. And during this residency, we were going through the house and really looking for spaces that kind of caught our interest, whether it was through the architecture or through the atmosphere or certain colors or like different objects in the room. And very spontaneously, we were taking the camera, choosing costumes, and improvising together in that spaces. And this is how 6 videos were created during this residency. And you can see 4 of the pictures here. So they are very different from each other with very different narratives also. And yeah, it's short movies and yeah, short movies and kind of under the title of The Dog is Missing, but like each of them with a separate narrative, a separate approach, and a very different atmosphere and character. Then the next thing is about an interaction with an object that is done by Adriana. I don't know if you can see it on the picture, but it's a house out of metal sticks and it's connected at the edges. So the house is movable. As soon as you touch it or you lean against it, the house bends with you. Our initial idea was to have a research about home and basically what it means to be home. If it's connected really to a specific space, or if it's more about the atmosphere that is created at home, or is it just the people that you're surrounding yourself with? So this is like a picture series that was done during this research about house, or as we call it, casa. Another interest of ours is sharing experiences and sharing knowledge with other people. So this picture is from a workshop that we did during the Ars Electronica Festival. The title is How to Become a High-Tech Anti-Discrimination Activist Collective. Kind of very complicated title. What we tried and what was also very interesting in this research is how we can bring together embodiment and systemic racism. So basically, we tried to, or like we came up with exercises that deepened our awareness for our own bias and our own patterns in the thinking process. Like, how can we observe if we are really objective, or what kind of patterns do we have in our thinking processes? How do we judge certain situations? How do we judge other people? How do we interact? How do we communicate with others? And how can we be really aware in order to be less discriminative and more inclusive? And I think the very nice thing about it is that our approach was through movement. So of course we were also discussing a lot, but the base of it was really movement, dance, and the practice of moving together collectively. And we're coming to the last part of the presentation. So this is the most recent project that we did as a group. It's called Rastilovi. I hope I pronounce it correctly. And the nice thing about this is that it's really a crossover project of different fields. So we have the visual imagery, the music, the poetry, and the dance. It's already suggesting that a lot of people were involved. Maybe you know Art Pole from Ukraine. So there's Olya Mikhailiuk as the artistic director and the visual artist of the project. There is the poetry by Serhiy Shadan. And basically this collaboration tried to, to mingle all these different fields and create one artwork together on an equal basis. Our working process really started during the lockdown, so we were not able to meet physically, which means that we were online a lot. And we started out with just reading circles. So we took the poetry of Serhiy Shadan and we were practicing reading this poetry out loud to the others. And the others tried to really listen and to sense what kind of emotions or sensations or imagination came up while reading this poetry. And we did this very excessively and tried to sketch those sensations, those images, these experiences that we had. And you can see in this picture, like there are pictures of the rehearsal process itself, but also little sketches that that come from reading the poetry of Serhiy Shadan. The nice thing about it also is that we kind of, there were certain motifs that kind of always came back. So as you see, there are a lot of different bodies in different shapes and different forms. So the poetry that we were reading was kind of triggering a very transformative body shape that was kind of like, first of all, transformative, but also permeable and like shape shifting with different features, different qualities, different abilities also. And here's another example of the different bodies with the different features. And starting from this point of reading the poetry and trying to collect all the different sensations and experiences, we worked on the choreography. So we really took very specific sensations of the body. For example, we had one motif that was about cycles and circles. And from this point of cycles and circles, we improvised and we experimented a lot. And we created, for example, one scene of this motif. And this is how different scenes were developed out of different motifs. The same way, also the costume was designed because the poetry kind of proposed a very specific atmosphere in which the choreography takes place. Also, of course, the visuals by Olya Mikhailiuk are very specific and very proposing like a very specific atmosphere. So so Adriana tried to kind of find a way how to use materials and textures that resemble this kind of atmospheres that were proposed in the text and in the imagery of Olya. Yeah, I hope that you kind of enjoyed the journey through the different projects that I presented to you. So as I said before, for me as an artist, I'm really enjoying working together and like bringing together the expertise of each and every one, and yeah, creating something together. So for me, this is like extremely valuable as a creative process.
Клас. Дякую тобі дуже, Андреа. Я ще скажу на загал, що ми можемо зараз задавати питання або якось коментувати те, що ви почули. Ви можете відштовхуватись від того, про що ми говорили сьогодні, і якісь питання, які у вас теж лишились незакритими, наприклад, після сьогодні, ви можете їх перезадати Андреа, я впевнена, що про якісь з них вона теж думала. Я, поки ви думаєте, задам питання від себе. Андреа, поки формуються інші запитання, я маю запитання до тебе. Твоя практика як перформерки, мені здається, дуже сильно пов'язана саме з практикою, тобто практично орієнтованим, да, таким мистецьким потоком. Але наскільки важливу роль для тебе взагалі займає процес концептуалізації і якогось проговорення, і якогось обдумування перед тим, як ти робиш саму практику? Чи це радше ідеї в тебе виникають через практику? Тобто яким чином створюється взагалі твій мистецький продукт?
This sounds like a big question. Is Lilia supposed to translate or?
Ми чуємо переклад, як тебе перекладають, так що все окей. Андреа, чи все окей, чи тобі потрібна допомога? Лілія, чи ви тут?
Коли ви перекладаєте для Андреа, додайте, будь ласка, кнопку англійська. Може, задай питання англійською?
Окей, напевно, тоді... Так, напевно, тоді я спробую переключитись зараз на англійську. Andrea, I will change to English because I think we just have a little bit of problems here with this translation, Zoom translation. Just let me switch. Yeah. Yeah, so my question was, what part of conceptualization and of theory is in your practice, because performativity is like very practice-oriented thing, and maybe ideas come up while you have practice, or you come up with the ideas before practice. It's just like a question how it happens in your artistic process.
I think in many different ways. Because I think first is important to find something that interests you, something that really inspires you. So this inspiration can come from a text you read, it can come from a movie that you see, it can come from nature, like anything basically. So I think in the creative process, then when we found something that is of very valuable interest and we feel potential, is this exploration. And again, this exploration can be in many different ways. So it can be in collecting materials, different materials. It can be finding texts or authors that were writing about this certain topic, for example, to get really specific scientific discourses about it. It could also be in just going somewhere, for example, if nature is your inspiration, just going into nature and exploring this very specific idea that you have. And what, for example, is very prominent in the work of Lab on Stage is this kind of experimentation. Because what we feel is that when you trust your intuition and when you are really, how to say, it's this kind of sometimes when you have an improvisation for the first time, it's very much alive because everything is very unknown, and you create a lot of potential for beautiful things to appear. And sometimes when you dive too much into the topic, or you're very fixed in your mind about that it has to be a certain way, you kind of maybe like neglect some options that you can have. So I think in the creative process, we try to always create space for possibilities and for things to appear by themselves. And there's a very beautiful sentence by Ruha Benjamin, an American scholar, and she says, imagination is a field of action. And somehow I find it very beautiful that as long as you can imagine something, this something is ready to appear and to manifest itself. So I see also creative processes a bit in the same way.
Thank you a lot for your answer. I will check if we'll have some more questions. Хтось, можливо, хоче українською, я перекладу. Ага.
Ви допомогли костюмом, чого ви не відштовхували?
We have a question here regarding the costumes. How did you come up with the idea of the costume? How did you develop it? And I think you already told a bit, but maybe you can tell a bit more.
For this piece with the Velcro? The attachment?
Yeah, I think you can tell about this one, and if you have any idea of some other project that you also worked with costume, you can also talk about this. Yeah.
So in this case of the Velcro piece, it was very specific. As you maybe saw before, in the team of Lab on Stage, there's Adriana, and she's a visual artist, which means that she's also very much into designing things and like doing things with her hands. And she's always the one also providing us movement practitioners with objects or with costumes or with, like everything aside from the dance and the movement. And basically, I think in this case, the idea was there first that we want to create something together. And what caught our interest was this idea of attachment and accumulating things, and how it is physically, if you are attached to something so strongly, you cannot get rid of it. Like you have to you have to deal with the situation that you are stuck or that something is stuck on you. And kind of her role in that project was to create something, to create a costume or objects that really made it real, the attachment, you know, that she invents something that we really get the experience of being attached. And somehow she had several sketches and several ideas, but in the end, the thing with the Velcro stayed. So she was sewing 2 costumes for us. And then we had a lot of fun, like trying out and almost like jumping onto each other and getting fixed to each other. And it was like being the first time on the playground. So yeah, this is kind of out of an idea for a very specific situation, how to invent something that makes this situation real on stage or in a different setting. For other costumes or other projects, I think very often in dance pieces, the costumes come at a later point. So I think the Velcro piece is also very, very different in that sense that the costume was first and then was the movement because of the specific costume. But for example, in Rozdilovi, the movement was there first, and then the costume was more designed to support the atmosphere and the landscape that we wanted to create. So depending on that, like which colors do you choose, which kind of materials, which form do you give to the body, because a costume can also very much transform the dancer's body. So yeah, I think depending on the project or on your idea, this can be very fluent, what is influencing what.
Thank you. Thank you for your answer.
Він цікавий, як вона створювалася технічно, і просто підійшла сама Андреа, і що до неї особисто метод.
We have a question regarding this project with home, where there was a question if home is something that is like about atmosphere or about people. So the question has like two questions actually. The first, how it was technically done with this structure, and second, what is the concept of home for you, and what was your in conclusion after this performance, if you had one? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think because in this project of home, it was 3 women involved in the project. It was one dancer from Israel, Adriana from Colombia, and me as a mover. And I already felt that being from different cultural backgrounds, the idea of home or being at home was very different. But still we found some common ground as being like women, or in some cases already mothers. Like, what does it mean to provide a home for someone else, having a family, for example? What was very enriching was that there are so many aspects of home and being home that it's almost impossible to put them all out here. I think it's also a very personal thing, what makes you feel at home. But definitely it's a necessity each of us has, that we either need a space, or we need someone, or we need one object in order to feel comfortable and to feel at home. What I can say as a dancer is that I think that my body is a kind of home for myself, and that I don't know, through life and like different experiences, it's not always very easy to feel at peace and at home with your own body. So dancing for me, or like the conclusion kind of was that dancing for me is also a healing process and a kind of self-exploration, how I can feel more at home with myself. And yeah, I think this is more or less the answer about the about the personal thing. And technically, it was very difficult because the house is movable, as I said. So at a certain point, these connections at the edges, they got a bit like loose. So you could almost fold the house completely in and it would blob up again, but always in a different way than you expect. So it didn't really work to make a very set choreography, because the house was always behaving differently. You did the same action, but one time it would pop up on the right side, another time it would just fall over. So the way we worked with was more like an improvisation score, and yeah, trying to adapt in the moment and in the situation, yeah, how the house kind of behaved. So yeah, this was like the technical background to it.
Thank you. I really loved this comment about the body as a form of the home which you carry with yourself, actually. Можливо, є ще якісь питання чи коментарі?
Чи, наприклад, вона сказала те, що її тіло – це її домівка, а чи можна вона уявити себе без цієї домівки?
So there is a question regarding your last answer about your that you said that your body is a kind of your home. Is it possible for you to imagine yourself without this home, like with ти маєш на увазі без якби тіла? Like, can you imagine yourself without the possibility to use your body and to use it as a kind of a home, if I understood it right? Yeah.
So maybe for me, when I speak about the body, it's not only the physical shape of the body, but also the mind that is maybe contained or maybe somewhere surrounding this physical body. So for me, the body is not only a material, but it also is some kind of metaphysical awareness or consciousness that interacts with the physical matter. So I think that for me is very important. I think it doesn't matter in which sense, but to express what is inside me, if it is through dance or through different kind of artistic practices. And I think this is also something that that is very essential to every human being, to express ourselves and to do something with our body, with our minds. I think this is what culture is made of and what connects us on a very basic level.
Thank you. Thanks for your answer. Ага. Оля і Оля.
Не проти, якщо ти приходиш.
Так.
З презентації видно, що для неї дуже важливо це поєднання видів мистецтва, да? Там хореографія, візуальні мистецтва, література. Ну, це видно, а в мене таке питання, а чому саме важливо?
There is a question regarding the like from your projects we can see that it's important for you to combine different disciplines like literature, visual, performative, and so on. Why is it important for you? Why do you do that?
Because I feel otherwise I would stay always in my own bubble, and I think this is kind of dangerous. I feel that it's so enriching for the art practice to see how other artists are working in their own disciplines and to communicate what we have in common or what we can learn from each other, because maybe there is something an architect, like the mind of the architect would have that I could somehow translate into my field of dance. And I think this kind of exchanges are very nourishing for the own practice and for the own development as humans, as artists, as so of course it's very nice to dance and to perform and to go deeper in dance itself, but I always feel that through the interaction with the different disciplines there's always something very nourishing and very expanding, and there is a kind of learning process from each other, I feel, and that's why it's very important for me, and that's why I very much enjoy this kind of experiences.
Cool. So it's like other disciplines as another resource for your imagination and for your ideas. Thank you. And we have the last question.
Дякую, Андрея, за вашу презентацію. І насправді моє питання трошки все ж таки, як не була довірена, воно буде схоже має. Мені цікаво, наскільки я зрозумів із презентації, що ви сказали в момент, що ви народжували дитину, у вас є дитина, тобто як це фізичне тіло, яке є домом, наприклад, фізична складова, фізичне тіло і фізичне тіло, як воно перебувало із цим досвідом мати спершу випадку дитину, а потім народити дитину,
Yeah, so first, thank you for your presentation. It's a comment from the person who asked, and it's going to be a little bit nearby the question about the home, which was already asked. So the question is, like you said to us that you also gave a birth to a child, and how was this for you as your body as a home to give a birth to someone else? Did you have any insights about that? Like, did you like what are the thoughts around this concept that your body as your personal home can make another person and another human being? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, there was a little misunderstanding. I didn't give birth to anyone yet, but the Israeli dancer, she is a mother to 2 kids, or now 3 kids, and her approach to home was very different because of that experience, of course. And I think what I learned from other dancers is that their body awareness is very elaborate, is very how to say, like they have a very good body awareness through the dance and the dance training. So I think the process of being pregnant and giving birth is a very transformative experience, probably. Unfortunately, I cannot really tell you about this experience. But I feel that sometimes creative processes are almost like you give birth to something, because you really go through like the idea, and then I don't know, you have to stay with this idea, you have to kind of work on it, like make it fit and see like where are the edges, so it has a lot of friction, and maybe you get desperate because things don't work out, and like so there's a lot of how you say, like in this process there's a lot of friction until the last moment that the product or the final thing is there. So I would say that maybe this is a kind of association, or like a kind of connotation for this kind of process.
Thank you. And we have also another question. Sorry.
Друге питання стосується багато ваших проєктів з тілом, які пов'язані, вони саме пов'язані з простором або з іншими людьми, з комунікацією, якийсь контакт між простором або іншими людьми. Тобто, чи можете ви собі уявити проєкт про тіло з тілом як інструментом, який не комунікує до простору або до іншої людини? Чи просто все ж таки це можливість якоїсь комунікації, тоді якщо немає з ким комунікувати, тоді можливий проєкт?
A lot of your projects are connected with the space, with communication with space, or communication with someone else, like some other human being or not human. Can you imagine the project which would not have this communication to someone or to something, but would be like an isolation of your body, as I understood, right? Or if there is no communication, then there is no sense of the, you know, of the art process. What do you think about that?
I think already a body in itself is communicating, whether I think it can get very philosophical, like does the body exist without being watched by another person or another object? But I think a body in itself already contains a lot of information, the posture, where it places itself, like in which level, facing front, facing back. So there's already a communication that cannot be excluded or cannot be like undone. So I mean, I think even a body in an empty space is communicating, because then the empty space becomes very prominent, and it's like suddenly the empty space is the communicator with the body. So maybe this could be a very good task for you to try this out and see if you find a solution for a non-communicative body, or like how to find a way to make this happen.
Cool, thank you. I think it's going to be a challenge for us. But I will just have a comment to the translator that it's not, you don't have to translate right now, because Andrea hears me directly. So I will just end our meeting right now, and we don't need translation for this. Якщо я правильно зрозуміла, у нас...
функцію перекладу, і ми всі будемо звичайні сесії, і всі добре чуємо одне одного. Якщо ти далі будеш говорити тільки англійською.
Так, я думаю, що там. Чи є ще якісь, можливо, питання?
Чи був якийсь найлюбіший момент в неї, якісь такі проекти або в одному, і це вплинуло на те, як вона відчуває себе у своєму тілі?
А улюблений момент стосовно чого, можливо, більше специфікувати?
Наприклад, в тому проєкті, де вона сказала, що там були костюми, які приклеювалися.
Тобто, якщо якось питання це трошки по-іншому перефразувати, то типу, чи може вона пригадати якісь моменти, які найбільше подобались, які ми якось трансформували під час її практики, да? Okay. Sorry, we still will have the translation. I'm telling it to the translator. The last question is about the most maybe favorite moments for you in your practice that you can recall in your memory that somehow transformed you as an artist, as a human. Yeah, if you have such.
I think basically I very much enjoy always the parts of the project where we are still investigating and still like experimenting, which is kind of a very open space and very very open to try whatever comes to your mind. And I think my favorite moments that made me very astonished about the capabilities of the human body is when it comes to sensation. So for example, in this project of Garden of Desires, we for quite some time we were working with stimulation through touch by another person. So for example, I was in the space with closed eyes, and another person would come and give like different stimulation through touch. And like from this stimulus of touch, there would be certain images coming up in my mind, or certain sensations or memories. So I was very kind of it was really like a wow moment, what kind of memories are stored in my body, maybe it be trauma, but also joy, anger, like all the different emotions are still in my body, and they can be accessible through different practices. And this was a very beautiful moment for me somehow, because it gave me the image that my body is like a history book of my whole life, you know, that everything I ever experienced is still somehow inside of me. And that this makes all of us like very, very special and very unique. And it also made me made me very humble and respectful to how people react, or how people like what kind of choices they made out of their experiences. So I think this kind of working process was very, very touching and very intense emotionally.
Thank you for your answer. I will check if we we'll have any more questions. Do we have more questions? I think that's it. We are really, really thankful for you, for your story, for your artist talk. And yeah, let's keep in touch. And soon we will meet you again when we will have the individual mentor meetings where we can go a little bit deeper into some questions that are where we have our personal interest. So thank you again, and have a great evening today.
Thank you also. Maybe just very shortly, how are you guys? Like, how is being there together and working with each other? Do you enjoy it?
Да, конечно.
Hi, Andrea.
Hello.
I'm Ira. I'm the one who asked about your performance about home. And I want to ask you, how are you? How was your day? And what you're doing? How do you feel now? What are you feeling now?
And one thing before we start, maybe I will ask here the translator not to translate anymore, because it's going to be just a conversation between people who know English. Yeah.
Okay. So hello. Thank you. My day was very good. As you know, I'm also working as a manual therapist. So I'm part-time working in a hospital at the palliative care station. And this is also a work that I really enjoy a lot, to work with people that are in a different state of life, maybe a little bit closer to death than other people, but it's very enriching and very beautiful also. Yeah, so I think it was like kind of a good day, even though we had a lot of rain in Vienna. But I'm happy, and I'm very much looking forward to, yeah, have a more intense session with you guys soon.
Okay. If we have some more comments that you want to say, you're welcome. If not, let's just thank to Andrea.
Well, whenever you have questions or anything, like, I don't know, you can contact me, email, or like write, I don't know, on Facebook or something. So I'm here, and otherwise we will meet soon in the mentor.
Cool. Thank you a lot, and yeah, see you soon, and have a great week. Have a great evening.
You too, guys. Thank you very much for your interest and your time. Was very beautiful. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Окей. Так, ну що, я вам всім дуже дякую і вітаю нас всіх з тим, що ми витримали такий довгий день. І для всіх, хто витримав, ми маємо хорошу новину, бо ми переносимо нашу рефлексію на завтра, бо ми відчуваємо, що ми зараз взагалі не в ресурсі. Що?
Да, не в ресурсі,
Батарейка сіла, і я думаю, що більш ефективно буде, якщо ми зберемося завтра зранку і рефлекснемо. От. Тому, так, ще раз можемо собі поплатити за цей день. Якщо у вас лишились якісь організаційні питання, можете вже персонально до нас підходити. Якщо ні, то до завтра. Так, завтра ми так само зустрічаємось. В 10 ми починаємо. Якщо ви можете на 5 хвилин раніше прийти, то буде супер. Ой, сорі, ребята, не в 10, а в 9:30. В 9:30, так. Ні, блін, 10.
Так і 10? 10,
сорі, я вже теж не в ресурсі. Нічого не треба.
Да, я теж, в принципі, думав.
Все, до завтра. Так, дуже вам дякую, дуже-дуже. Все, гарного вам вечора. Бажаю. Все супер. До побачення.